Zoom recording?
Yes, I am doing that to you, Your Honor.
All right.
Okay.
The regular meeting of the Public Defender Service Corporation is now called to order. I will like the secretary to please call the roll.
Chief Justice F. Philip Carbolito.
I am present and I am logging on from the Judicial Center in Hagåtña.
Presiding Judge Alberto C. Lamarena III. Presiding Judge Alberto C. Lamarena III.
Yeah, he's not with us at this time, so just go ahead and proceed, Kathy.
Trustee Cynthia V. Acubi.
Thank you. I'm present and I'm logging on from my office here in Hagåtña, Guam.
Trustee Donna Muña Canata.
Hi, I'm present, half a day, and I'm logging in from my office here at East Tigana, Guam Auto Spot.
Guam Bar President Jackie T. Terlahi.
Half a day. This is Jacqueline Tarahi. I'm logged in from my office in Agana.
All right, the secretary has confirmed that we have a quorum. We are able to conduct the regular business of the corporation. And so the only thing I ask is that you're not speaking, if you could just go ahead and mute yourself until such time as your time to speak. It'll help in terms of our recording and our live streaming broadcast. So the first order of business is the regular scheduled meeting, the adoption of the regular meeting minutes of meeting of March 23rd, 2021. Is there a motion to adopt?
Motion,
All right.
I'll second the motion, Your Honor.
Moved by Trustee Kanata and seconded by Trustee Acubi. Any discussion on the minutes? There being none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, the minutes has been unanimously adopted. And the next meeting the next item under old business is the financial status update. And at this time, I will call on Mr. Mike Moreno.
Is okay now? Oh, good afternoon, everybody. We have just received our second allotment in April on April 16th, and we are at 92%. APD is also at 92%. And as far as the domestic violence program is concerned, we are still at status quo for the Stop 2020 funding. We will be able to continue with Stop 2019 up till the end of June. And that concludes the financial portion.
Okay, it's good that the corporation and APD and our DVP programs continue to be updated in reference to their funding. Any questions for Mr. Moreno? There being none, next item under old business is the report from our executive director of the corporation, Mr. Hattori.
Good afternoon, everybody. We included on pages 12 through 16 our stats year to date. We compared them with prior years. So currently it appears we have 1,180 prejudgment cases, and you could tell which fiscal year they were opened. 267 in fiscal 2019, 564 in FY 2020, and 349 in FY 2021. And so
have you seen it?
We broke it down by types of matters as well. I know the committee also wanted a list of our asserted cases or numbers, and so we do have that capacity to record our asserteds, and that's found on page 14. unfortunately, these numbers, if you look at the grand total, right, we have them by asserteds who are confined, asserteds who are released, waived, and waived that are confined. It shows here that we have 24 asserted who are confined, 11 who are asserted that are released. And then, but if you look at the grand total, it says 479. So obviously there's a huge gap between that and the number of prejudgment cases we have, which is about 1180. And so we're gonna have to reconcile that, figure out where all that data is being recorded, because there should really only be one of these four things. I can tell the board this, that many of the asserted confines are people who are not guilty by reason of mental illness. They pretty much automatically assert. And so there might be at least anywhere from 5 to 12 of them that are fit that category. But we really do not have a heavy backload of asserted confines and or asserted releases relative to our number of waivers. And so, you know, I mean, I think we've done pretty good. I was hoping there would be a bigger backlog. I know other jurisdictions are receiving American Rescue Plan funding to hire attorneys for 2 years to deal with the backlog. I don't know if we really need to do that, but that's something that we're gonna, you know, explore to try to get additional funding for the corporation. But you guys have any questions? That's about it for our stats.
Yeah, Steve, I do. Your last statement that many jurisdictions have American Rescue Plan funding. Where did you get that information? And is it under a itemized category, a specific category, or is it the part of the lump sum funds that has been allocated to the territories?
Yeah, well, that's what we have to figure out. I know that it was one particular state, and then I'm in a listserv with other public defenders, and they're all trying to figure out how they're going to, if they're going to be able to get a piece of that money. I mean,
well, that's a little different than what you just earlier said. You said many jurisdictions have American Rescue Plans to hire lawyers to address the backlog. So I'm not aware of that. And I want to know how is it that we can go about being in one of those many jurisdictions? And is there a specific earmark for indigent defense under the American Rescue Plan, or is that part of the pot that is allocated to the states and territories separately?
Yeah, that's correct. There's no specific amount set aside for indigent defense. It's more like they convinced the governor in that state to allocate a portion for public defense.
So to my knowledge, as of today, as we sit here, as of today, Treasury has not issued guidelines in reference to how those funds can be expended, different from the CARES Act guidance. So if you're aware of that other jurisdictions are receiving those funds, I then would ask the administration to prepare a request and properly justify it with the purpose, the data, and the eligibility where it qualifies, so that can be submitted. And we just don't sit back and wait until those funds are offered to us, because that'll never happen.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And, you know, one of the justification we're going to use is the fact that we're being appointed to represent all the travelers. I mean, we've probably spent hundreds of hours on those cases. And I mean, if, you know, at some point we should be able to make a claim for it. And so
Well,
this might be the vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, number one, when you do get information that these Treasury guidelines have been issued through your listserv, then I think that should be something scrutinized and see if the category qualifies for this hiring of additional attorneys to address the backlog. It makes sense. But we need to take the initiative if we want to fall in the category of many jurisdictions, because I think then that that will serve our indigent community. So any other questions for Ms. So Steve, that's not a statement, that's a request for you to
pursue that.
corporation to take the initiative, initiate the application, support the request, and provide and keep the board informed. Right. Any other
Yes.
questions? Any other questions for Mr. Hattori? All right. So is there anything else, Steve, you want to add?
So we also received word that we are gonna be approved for a grant to install basically Zoom-enabled devices at our correctional facilities to facilitate attorney-client visits, and they actually gave us more money than we requested. So we're gonna work with the basically the governor's office and the Department of Corrections to see if we could expand it to include a family video visitation. They've been on lockdown for over 14 months without any visitation. The only contact allowed is through PayTel, and many of our clients, obviously can't afford PayTel. So that's something that we're gonna have to try to twist OTEC's arm and let us set up a Wi-Fi hub in their visitation center. It's gonna reduce the amount of the manpower involved for physical visitation, and it's gonna actually facilitate, families staying in contact with each other. And so the grant, especially since they increased the amount we requested, should be able to cover this plan.
All right.
And the only other thing we're working on is that I guess that PayTel bill that's before the legislature, and we're hoping that'll get passed soon. All that does is it sets aside the 15% that the company who owns PayTel pays to the general fund and allocates it to the Department of Corrections to pay for attorney-client phone calls. We've been having our clients use PayTel to speak to their lawyers, and that's in our minds not acceptable.
Okay, and also I know that you're discussing the circumstance up at DOC, but again, and my statement that is going to follow is not really help that circumstance, but just also keep in mind to you and your lawyers that the judiciary has 3 Zoom rooms, and to the extent you have clients that instead of meeting out in the parking lot, just with a proper coordination, those rooms are available for access to their virtual hearings or their virtual treatment services. At least those are the 2 categories that are clear in my mind. I'm not really sure about actual meetings if there's a need for that. But just also keep in mind that those resources are available to the public defender and APD.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything further.
All right. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is report from the APD, and
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
You're recognized, Annie.
Thank you, Your Honor. We were working on our stats and we just finished them. So am I able to share my screen so I could show it to you? Because I will submit it, but it didn't make the board packet.
Yes, please do so.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, do you see this?
Yes.
Okay, so we went from, if you start from the right-hand side to the left, from 2018 to 2021, the way we set it up is we put the opened cases, the pre-waived cases, asserted cases, post, deferred, dismissed, and closed. So we did that for all 4 categories. And so 2018, we actually closed 560 cases. 2019, 266 cases were closed. 2020, we closed 114. And so we've closed 14 at the end of, we're up to the second quarter, so middle of the second quarter. So at the same way with what Mr. Hattori said is with the asserteds, some of them are, we have asserted, and it's just a matter of going through with the calendar of the court to make sure that they are being heard. But again, I did not put in a stat specifically of which cases are asserted. It's just the felonies or misdemeanors, juvenile, stuff like that. So do you have any questions, Your Honor?
Just a couple, and then, anyone else, please feel free to weigh in at any time. But Annie, it would be helpful to me when you have a category of closed cases in a particular fiscal year.
Mhm.
You also have a category of what are the open or what are the new cases for that time period. That's the only way I can determine what your backlog is. If we can have data that shows how many cases came in at the same time you determine the number of cases that were closed, then we can determine if there is a backlog. If you just put that you closed 560 cases, well, if 1,000 cases came in at the same time, that we still have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to have a category that lists the number of cases that came in or that were open during the time period that you are listing that the cases were closed. And I assume it's for that fiscal year.
Okay.
And well, the second item escapes me, but is there any questions for Ms. Gale? QB, you're muted.
I apologize, Your Honor. No questions. I think it's just what you've just asked of Ms. Gale, and I'm satisfied that we can review that once Ms. Gale provides that updated information as far as determining the total number.
Yeah,
I'll do that, Your Honor.
And it was the PJ, and he's not with us yet, but the presiding judge is the one that asked for the asserted figures. I think he wants to compare in reference to the data that he's seeing from our clerk's office. But so for 2020 second quarter, we have, and I think if you break down your asserted cases similar to what Mr. Hattori did, what Steve did, in terms of confined, not confined, and the other categories he had, that would be more meaningful to the board.
Okay.
So if we have now that there are 21 asserted cases, are you saying that those all 21 are confined and continue? And
I'll have to put that stat together.
okay. All right, I think that would be more meaningful to the presiding judge in reference to his request.
Your Honor, could I ask, he specifically Judge Lamarena, presiding Judge Lamarena, wanted the case, I mean, not the case, but the type of case, and then what does he want? He didn't really make it clear as to what, he just wants the asserted and whether or not they're confined or non-confined.
Well, that at the minimum was my recollection, but I'm not speaking for him. He may want other information in addition to that, but at a minimum, that is what we're really interested in.
Okay. I get it. Okay, thank you, Your Honor. I don't have anything further. We just had, it's interesting, we just had issues today. I don't know if the court was having issues, but Zoom is, power issues. Our power is going on and off, and we had to go resort to the telephone, but this is the first time it's actually happened like that today. Anyway, but other than that, we haven't really been having that many problems. And as far as using the Zoom rooms at the court, we use that when we have to specifically get a client over there for a in-person meeting sometimes. I know that the judges require, right now, they require in-person changes of plea. So if the client is detained and you're doing a change of plea, you have to go in person. So that's what we've been doing, following all the protocols.
All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
I'll stop sharing.
All right. Thank you, Annie. So the next item on the agenda is our Elder Justice Center update. And at this time, I will recognize Attorney Kat Seguenza.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm very happy to be part of this program, a program that I think is going to provide much needed legal services to our Manumco. I've been contracted as the managing attorney for the Elder Justice Center and have been asked to oversee this pilot program. I had a long narrative prepared explaining to explain to the board what's been happening. But given our limited time period today, I would like to just report on two matters before turning the floor over to Kathleen Moylan with some data. I would like to update the board on the status of Bill 100-36 COR. That I'm very pleased to announce some wonderful news that this law, which authorizes the Public Defender Service Corporation to apply, receive, administer grants, and to enter into intergovernmental agreements. This law is the government helping government model, which I've seen work in other areas, and I believe it's going to work here as well. It'll facilitate creating a more permanent Elder Justice Center that can provide legal services to those most vulnerable. The bill was introduced on March 29th, 2021, and were referred to committee on April 1, 2021. A public hearing was held on April 9th, and it was placed on the session floor on April 23rd. There being no objections, the bill was passed unanimously on the session floor and placed on the third reading floor and is expected to be voted on and sent to the governor's office by the end of this week. This is a big deal. This is allowing us the ability to apply for funding, to make sure that at the end of this 6-month period, things don't just stop. The committee, I'm very pleased, adopted our suggested amendments to the bill, which included buzzwords that we're finding in many of the federal grants. And we thought that by including this language in the law, our application process would be easier. And the buzzwords are that legal services offered will be rendered to those persons who are, quote, in the greatest economic and social need. That way we make sure that we're complying with the requirements of the Title III-B Older American Act relating to legal services. So that's really good news. And if anyone has any questions about the bill, I'll answer them. Otherwise, I'll move on to our grand opening ceremony, which is currently scheduled for May 3rd.
Ken, I do. I have not read the bill, and so my first question is, who is eligible to apply for the grant? Is that under the Public Defender Corporation? what is the entity that would be pursuing these grants? for
The Public Defender Public Defender Service Corporation.
And in terms of eligibility, you mentioned, so in applying for these grants, you mentioned that a certain group would be entitled, and it sounds like our pilot program is a little more narrow than at least what I'm hearing. So that would have to be revisited. Is that what, am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, Your Honor, and that's one of the things that I was hoping to address more fully at a longer board hearing, because that's going to require a bit of in-depth analysis of some federal statutes that we're required to comply with. So I was thinking that what we would do probably in the next board hearing, if that's acceptable, is provide the board with the applicable federal statutes which which govern us, and then see how our board resolutions fit in and if any changes have to be made.
Yeah, I didn't mean to suggest that we were going. It's just that it kind of caught my attention that that seems to be a little incompatible with our pilot program. I think the opportune time for us to resolve this issue is when our pilot program is coming up for expiration.
Yes.
When the board then has to decide whether or not this is going to be a quote permanent close quote service of the corporation. We need to be in line with any long-term funding requirement because as far as I know, local funds are not available to sustain this operation. And that's the reason for the pilot program, federal funding. So I myself personally would want a more permanent funding source. So we have to put the division and the corporation in a position where we qualify for this federal funding,
Yes.
for the statute to be meaningful. So I just note that I'm not taking a position one way or the other, but and so it's good that you begin that research because this pilot time period, 6 months, is going to come up very shortly, sooner rather than later, and we need to get ahead of that determination. Any other concerns, questions before Seguenza moves on to the next topic? And if you can send me a copy of that bill, or
Yes, Your Honor.
maybe Kathy has done that, but
Okay.
I probably have not separated for a to-do on my to-do list, but which I very much would like to, since now it's in the third reading file. All right, please continue.
Alrighty, I had reviewed some of your earlier board meetings that took place before my arrival, and I sensed a sincere interest in holding an open, a grand opening for our center. And we had discussed how appropriate it would be to coordinate it or combine it with the proclamation signing celebrating the Senior Citizens Month. So we have been working closely with the governor's office, and I'm very pleased to announce that the governor has graciously agreed to accommodate the joint requests of the EJC and the Department of Health to combine the two ceremonies, and she's agreed to appear at our offices at the Castle Building and do the proclamation there, which will be followed by a ribbon cutting ceremony. Subject to the landlord's approval, the plan is to erect a canopy outside the entrance door. The governor's office has imposed restrictions on the event, including it must include 25 or fewer guests to be selected by the governor's office. They're looking at individuals from the Department of Public Health, our board of directors, the legislature, and the mayor's office. The media will be present, and we're happy about that because typically the Department of Public Health has far-reaching senior citizens month activities, but because of COVID, they're restricted. So this media presence will do two things. It will obviously advertise our opening, but it will also enlighten people that this is the Senior Citizens Month. They've identified speakers for the event, which at this time they've proposed that Chief Justice Carbolito as the chairman of the board speak, as well as the presiding Judge Lemarena. So what we would like to do is, depending on the board's discussion here, we seek approval of the board for this program, subject to whatever restrictions placed on us by the governor's office.
And Kat, when and what time is this event again?
Tentatively planned for 10:30.
Oh, okay. Good. So I am very much in support personally. I'm speaking for myself. I am very much in support of having this ribbon cutting at the same time that they're celebrating Senior Citizens Month. I think it makes perfect sense. I had a conflict in my schedule because I'm currently speaking at an event at the district court at 9:30, but it's at 10:30. I'm very optimistic that I can make it up there on time. And if not, then the presiding judge will more than, he will very capably represent the board. And if for some reason, and you know, I encourage all board members to be present, or at least whatever capacity limitations we have. And if I'm not able to make it, I'd like Attorney Cynthia Ekubi, you know, to represent me in my capacity and extend those remarks, Ekubi, if you agree. But I think Judge Gatewood, I'll now consult with her, can get me out of the, done with my obligation in reference to her naturalization ceremony by that time. I don't know, you know, it's been years since I've attended those. Kat, do you know how long those ceremonies take, that naturalization or QB?
Your Honor, can I speak to that since I've attended a lot of them, and they usually run no more than 1 hour. It's probably less than an hour. I think, and because they, and I'm sure Kat Seguenza can say this, but they're really limited in the number of people that actually can be available. That's why I believe they split the ceremony. And so I think it should be under an hour, Your Honor. And the most part would be I believe your presentation would take anywhere about 10 minutes, and then they reserve time to do photographs.
Okay, well, that's great. Then I should be able to make it. The 10:30 time should work. Her event starts at 9:30. I'm giving the remarks during that naturalization ceremony. And so hopefully I'll be out there by 10:15. And so I can be there on time. And I'd like, Steve, for us to provide all the names of the board members, but first check, you know, if you're able to make it, so that, you know, we can try and accommodate all the board members. And if for some reason, you know, they cannot accommodate all the board members, then, you know, I'm more than happy to, if someone really wants to be there, to step aside and have that person be present for the opening. Any
available, Your Honor? I can be available on that day, Your Honor, at 10:30, as well as if in the event that either you or presiding judge are not available, I could stand in. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. So we'll check with the presiding judge. I will check with him if he's able to clear his calendar to be present on May 3rd at 10:30. Any interest, Donna and Jackie, to be present for this ribbon cutting?
I apologize, but I'm going to be in a deposition, so I'd be happy to give my seat to somebody.
All right. And Donna, is Donna still with us? I don't see her. I think she dropped. Oh, there you are. Okay, Donna.
Sorry,
It's okay.
multitasking. Yes, sir. I'd be more than happy.
So if you can, if you can submit my name, Ms. Donna's name, QV's name, and who else, and the presiding judge. And if they say they can't accommodate all four, then we'll resolve it. You just let me know.
Yes. Okay, so depending on, again, whether the board approves the program, we have a meeting with the governor's office at 3 p.m. At 3 o'clock today to go over the logistics, and we'll keep you posted. I guess Kathy Gogri will keep you posted on the logistics.
I think what's very important is our management people, that they be accommodated. And if we have to narrow our numbers in the board to one or two, I'd much rather that we accommodate, in reference to the staff who's worked really hard, and I'll leave that to Mr. Hattori and Kathy Gogri to make that determination as to, who should be present. But it's really the staff that's worked long and hard to put this program together. And I'd like to see the board represented, but more importantly, that we have an administrative staff presence in this celebration.
I'll make the recommendation. And at this point, if it's okay, I'll turn the floor over to Kathleen Moylan, who has some general statistics to discuss before we end the meeting.
All right. Kathleen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Your Honor and board members. We have a couple of tables to share with you to reflect the work we've been able to accomplish at the Elder Justice Center. The first table is located in the updated board packet on page 21. And this is generally a summary of the number of inquiries we've received at the center, as well as the number of cases we've been able to open as well as close, as well as the number of outreach events. On the next table, on page 22, we do provide additional data to support the numbers. So for example, on row 1, which represents March 15th through the 31st, we received 26 inquiries. Of those inquiries, we received 13 requests for powers of attorney, 3 for legal guardianship, 12 for last wills and testament, as well as another 12 for living wills. We also included in our table the requests for other legal services. Based on those requests, for example, you see the deed of gift, you see a war claim, as well as a protection order, suits, and then we would do the referrals to the Guam Bar Association Lawyer Referral Services, as well as our Victim Services Program, as well as the Office of the Public Guardian. We also included the month of April, and we are still including more data as we work through the month. On the following page, table number 3, this table represents the work we've been able to do on the wait list. If I could kindly just note that the wait list is the original list we received from the Division of Senior Citizens, and that list was at 241. So looking at the table, for example, looking at row 1 represents the last 2 weeks in March, which was when we started. At that time, we were just able to help 2 individuals who were from the wait list. We added 1 additional person. We were able to assist with 5 legal services. For the month of April, we were able to increase that amount, and we've been able to assist 19 seniors with 40 legal services. We've been able to address. I'd like to share with the board, you don't see the numbers here, but the bulk of the work have really been focused on contacting the seniors, working through the division's case management system, locating current phone numbers, talking to family members, and really carefully coordinating intake appointments with them, and recording all our contacts and recording all the data again back into the system. And so this table here again reflects the amount of work we've been able to do for the cases opened. You'll also see the last column there is waitlist number 2. So the difference there is that this waitlist number 2 is separate from the first one. And right now, waitlist number 2 is at 95. And then finally, for the last table, this table reflects the number of outreach events we've been able to conduct. So prior to opening, we were able to do 2 workshops with the Guam Micronesia Geriatrics Workforce Enhancement Program. And our audiences there amounted to close to 100. That was really helpful with the opening of our center. Some of our seniors who were calling did attend those sessions. So for March, we also participated in GWEP's Dementia Awareness Conference Series. And then in April, our office participated in Public Health's Awareness Week proclamation signing. We also did another conference series with TJ Ada, and Attorney Kat Focus Seguenza participated in the public hearing on Bill 100-36. So for the month of May, we are planning on participating in the Governor's Conference on Aging, and that's scheduled for May 6th, and it's going to be a webinar series, and our office will be presenting on the Elder Justice Center. And so, Your Honor and board members, I'm available if you have any questions with regards to the data presented.
I think we got most of Kathleen's, and at least on my end, she started just kind of fading a bit, but I was still able to hear probably all of what she said. It's just that you started out really fine, and you the volume sort of went down on my end. I don't know if it applied to everyone, but I think we got most of that. Just one question, Kathleen. In reference to the slide when you had 95 on waitlist 2.
Yes.
What does that mean, and why is that?
Why did we establish that, Your Honor? Yeah, we established that because our priority when we opened up was to focus on going through waitlist number 1. We were anticipating that with the minimal amount of staff we had, which was just Miss Stacy and I, we figured we were going to be bombarded with a lot of incoming calls. And so we were able to work with the Division of Senior Citizens, and Ms. Evelyn Manabusin was able to manage the incoming, to manage the second waitlist while we worked through the first one. And so that was the reason initially for setting that system up. And so we're going to be working with the division in terms of what will the next steps be, whether they're going to then transfer that to us. We certainly really, really appreciate their efforts at managing the second one. We see it growing incrementally because they're not only getting the additional referrals from us, and those numbers represent the inquiries that are coming in on our end. So we're sending that to her just to compile the list, but we're also getting additional seniors from case management services, which is being managed by the Health Services of the Pacific. So the need is there. We are working very hard to get through it. And so we're grateful for the division for helping us manage waitlist number 2. So that is the reason, Your Honor.
So Kat, is there a plan? When I think of waitlist, I think of backlog. Is there a plan and is there a timeline to address this waitlist? And how does it break down? Have you taken a look at that?
Yes, Your Honor, if I may be heard. We've devised a system that while we're attacking the original wait list, we're also handling new phone calls that come in on a daily basis. So we've categorized them into 3 different groups. If it's an emergency, which we've had a few, we complete the matter within 2 days. If it's urgent, we give ourselves 2 weeks. And what we do is we consult with each other to determine what category it is. And then if it doesn't fit into one of those 2 categories, we call it regular, and it's put on waitlist 2. And the waitlist 2 will be addressed at the completion of waitlist 1. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you. And I'm happy to hear that there is some organization to address this wait list. Any questions for Ms. Seguenza or Ms. Moylan? All right, if there are no questions, I'm going to, let's just go ahead and address the resolution in reference to supporting the elder abuse ribbon cutting ceremony. I'm just going to read the resolve clause here, and that is the Board of Trustees will hold its ribbon cutting ceremony in partnership with the Department of Public Health for the grand opening of the Elder Justice Center, and that's going to be on Monday, May 3rd at 10:30 p.m. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
Motion.
I'll move to adopt it, Your Honor.
All right, so it's been moved by Attorney Ecuby, it's been seconded by Trustee Donna Cunha-Canata. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor, please indicate your support by either raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, so it's been unanimously adopted. The resolution is duly adopted, and Kat and Kathleen, you have the full support of the board. We're hoping that with the reduced numbers, we can be accommodated, but if not, the priority is to have the relevant staff be present for this ribbon cutting with a proper representation by the board, which we can further discuss if there are those limitations. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda, Steve, I'll recognize you on the, I know that this is a matter that's is further tabled, but do you have anything you wanted to add in reference to the BJA 6th Amendment initiative? Oh, Steve's not here. So anyone, John?
I actually don't. I hadn't discussed that with Steve. I was just going to let Your Honor know that he'd gone to that trial.
Okay.
Kathy Gobry might have some information on it. I'm not sure if that's the case.
All right.
Your Honor, we had talked about bringing, we wanted the actual technical assistant to provide this presentation to the board. So I had asked you earlier on if we could have the board meeting in May moved to 10 o'clock, but we're not going to be able to make that May meeting. So I'm going to suggest, can we move it to June 22nd at 10 so that we can have the technical assistant from, she's based out of the East Coast, join us at 10. So if we can have that board meeting on June 22nd at 10 o'clock
Right.
a.m. I'm sorry, I put p.m. It should have been a.m. My
Yes,
apologies.
I figured that as much. So is
Thank you.
is there any objection to having this item on the agenda for June 22nd at 10 a.m. as part of our June board meeting?
Can you,
Jackie? I'm sorry, Jackie.
sorry, you went out on me.
Yeah, you know, I am also having a little issue hearing. It's very faint. I don't know if everyone is having the same problem or is it only me? But I just asked. I don't know if you can still hear me. But is there any objection to having this item scheduled for the June Board of Trustees meeting on Tuesday, June 22nd at 10 a.m.?
Good for me.
Yes, Your Honor, I'm on open schedule that day, so I'll make sure that I calendar it starting at the 10 a.m. hour.
All right, Donna?
No objection, sir.
Okay. All right, so are people still able to hear me? I'm, yes, you are? Okay, all right, good. All right, so the next item under new business is the financial adjustment request by the APD, and I'll recognize you, Annie.
Thank you, Your Honor. At the last board meeting, I had brought up a question regarding the use encumbering money for computers in 2020, but it not being delivered until the 2021 fiscal year had started. And so what I did is we put together from pages 26 to 30 to 39, just the just supporting documents showing that we did indeed encumber them in prior to the new fiscal year. And so what we would like, Your Honor, is to request the board permission to use, to make sure that the money is still there and it wasn't returned, and that we could, if we could use lapsed funds to fund the $24,000 for the computers, $24,276. So those are just what we just put the supporting documents for the public, for the board to ensure that, yes, indeed, they were encumbered. Okay, you're muted.
Famous last words. So I'm a little confused. Kathy, are these lapse funds available? And if the board approves this, is the funds available for to be appropriated, utilized for this purpose?
Yes, Your Honor. Did you want to say something?
Yes, there are two types of lapse funds available. One is the one that was lapsed from APD's 2020 budget, and the other one is the cumulative lapse funds that APD still has in their books. To be clear, I'd like to know which lapse funds APD would like to use.
Well, Annie, my suggestion is use the earlier funds. I mean, funds that had a balance in the prior time should be drawn down. And so, so that I assume that would be the cumulative lapse funds, Mike.
Yes, the issue was in the beginning that although the computers were encumbered in 2020 and was paid in 2021, the expense in itself is showing in fiscal year 2021. The original issue was they wanted to show the expense be shown in the 2020 financial statements. So that is the confusing part. If they are agreeable in that the computer expense will be shown in fiscal year 2021, then I agree with Your Honor that yeah, we can use the last one from APD's 2020 budget and be recorded in fiscal year 2021, not in 2020.
Well, let me ask this, Mike. The lapse funds, these are continuing appropriations. So what's the issue here?
No, it's the recording part that's confusing. Originally, they requested that the expense be shown in fiscal 2020 financials, which has been audited, and it's already been audited by the DOA, and it's part of their audit report. Now, if I were to change the 2020 financials, it would disrupt all the reporting that the DOA has in regards to the general fund. So I just want a clarification. When they use the lapse funds, is it still acceptable that I expense it in fiscal year 2021? That is the confusing part on our part.
Well, if we cannot go back to modify the 2020 expenses because the books have been closed, and there are going to be some issues in reference to the expenditures, then Annie, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't reflect it on the 2021 expenses, but use the earlier lapse funds to pay for that. It's really just the expense side I hear Mr. Moreno being concerned about, but not whether any funds are available and which funds should be tapped. To me, it's the earlier funding balance that should be drawn down. It doesn't really make any difference if it doesn't revert back to the general fund, but continues to be available to be expended in subsequent fiscal year for subsequent expenses as authorized by the Budget Act of the APD. But if it's less questions to expense it in 2021 than 2020, why should you have any concern? That's a question for you, Annie.
Your Honor, I'm not an accountant. I'm not a bookkeeper. I don't know. I don't know the
Okay,
correct
so it
answer.
doesn't, yeah, it doesn't matter to you so long as, number one, the computers are paid, received, utilized, and that it's properly paid for. So,
An
Mr.
accountant for-
Moreno, you're providing the accounting service for APD, expense it in a way that is less questionable. And if there's any issues, consult with Mr. Morrison and let him provide input. But I'm going to call for the question to approve this, to act on this resolution, to authorize the expenditure. How you expense it out, you be guided by the public defender administrative staff.
On that note, Your Honor, may I say one other comment?
Yes, please.
Yes, the budget bill authorized the use of the APD's 2020 lapse funds for the fiscal year 2021. So my recommendation is basically, because it is for fiscal year 2021, before this resolution can be looked at and approved, could we wait? My recommendation is to wait until the end of the year, because I do believe APD will have lapse funds this year. So in the question of the need to use outside funds from budgeted fiscal 2021 budgets, it's just going in circles.
Yeah, John, let me say that the language in the budget bill that authorizes the PD to tap on the lapse funds, prior lapses of APD are lapses. And so if this is encumbered, can be encumbered as an expense for 2020. And if not, so that reduces the lapses available for PD to be able to tap on. This should not be a very complex exercise. And if we can tap on prior year lapses to draw down for this expenditure, let's do that. If we have to wait until the 2021 books are closed, which is not until October, November of this year, then is that going to hold up the purchase of these computers, or has it already been purchased and we're just now doing an accounting, doing this for purposes of accounting?
They have been purchased.
All right, so to me, we want to try and close this out, not wait until the end of this fiscal year. And to the extent that we can allocate prior year lapses for this purpose to cover it, let's do that. If not, then what we should do is take it out of this year's operating account of the APD, subject to being reimbursed when we close the books from prior year lapses. Shouldn't be a very complicated.
Understood. No, I just needed a clarification. Thank you, Your Honor.
All those, let's, is there any question?
You want a motion?
Question? Yes, please call for the question. Can I hear a motion to adopt this resolution?
Motion?
Resolution.
All right. so
Chairman,
yes, Jackie, go ahead.
I just wanted to put on the record that I am recusing myself from voting on the resolution as I have a conflict as it relates to the vendor.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did notice that. Thank you for that, Jackie. All right, we still have a quorum and
Quorum.
we're able to conduct a business. So there's a motion that's been made by trustee Donna Muñoz-Canata. Is there a second?
I'll
Judy?
second it, Your Honor, and
It's
everyone.
been seconded. Any further any questions, comments? On the vote, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? There are 3 votes in favor and 1 abstention. And the resolution is duly adopted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So is that the final? Okay. So what I'd like to do, let me see. We are at the 1:30 mark. And so the executive session, I'd like to table this executive session because of the additional materials we received from administrative staff until the next board meeting. Is there any objection to tabling the executive session matter?
No objections, Your Honor.
No objection, sir.
No objection.
All right, thank you. Under public discussion, anything anyone wishes to comment? Public discussion? All right, at this time, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll
Motion.
move. Go ahead, Donna.
All right, it's been moved by trustee Muñoz-Canata, seconded by attorney Ekubi. There being no objection, the motion is unanimously adopted. I thank you everyone for your time, and this meeting is duly adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Your Honor, everyone.
Wonderful day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Be safe, Paul.
No nonsense.